Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Reaper Golf Videos, aka the Century Countess. This is another episode of our birthday dressmaking series. Now that we have everything, well, what we have so far ironed, other stuff is coming. I saw that it was everything that I ordered is coming in today, out for delivery. There are a few things that I still need to order, but those don't require too much alteration, or basically no alteration at all. And there's some items that we're not sure if we're going to order after all. So today I'm going to show you how we're going to take this scrap of fabric that we got from the back piece of the dress. If you remember that square piece that has that little split hole in it that we accidentally cut and made, we are going to use that as a back piece. We tried to before, but unfortunately we couldn't do anything unless it was ironed. So I'm also going to show you a unique method. This is what I normally do for mesh. Like if I want to make it something, if I want to make a dress and I want to do a mesh overlay, and as you guys know, mesh is very hard to work with. I'm going to show you a tactic on how I prepare mesh, and I'm going to do it in a way of how I stitch fabric pieces together. So let me show you. So I don't know if you can see it too well because, you know, the cotton pink and the main fabric pink stands out a little. But I have pinned the pattern piece down. This little flap right here, I don't know if you can see it. This is just excess interface, and that will be trimmed off. But we have literally lots of pins. And the reason why you want lots of pins is you want to make sure that this stays flat. Otherwise, you're going to get a little fold piece, and it's just going to completely ruin the outfit unless you can somehow push that fold into an area that you're going to stitch up later. And if you can't, you either do the following. You either live with it, or hope it's in an area that's not going to be noticed, or you seam rip it all up and start again from that spot and hope to goodness that it doesn't roll up anywhere else. So you want to make sure that you have what like I said, what I think, if I haven't said it already, what I like to call fabric air bubbles. So you want to make sure that there's no little fabric that's like, best way to describe it, fabric that's like slightly rolling up like this, or fabric that's kind of like that, where it's flat and then there's this little thing, because once you flap it, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get like this little ridge right here. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm pointing that you're going to get that. So you want to make sure this is flat. You don't want it taut. You want it relaxed but flat, with literally no chance of a fabric air bubble. And if you don't have any pins, I strongly recommend, don't have enough pins, I strongly recommend starting to sew in the area you cannot pin, but try to leave it flat, which is what I'm doing. I'm holding it down in replacement of the pin, and I'm being and again, I'm doing pin stitch. But I'm not like doing it this way and then, it's faster, but when something like this, you want to do it slowly, because if you rush it, you will make a mistake and you will have to seam rip it all and start again. There is a fast method. It's very slow, but it's similar. You just slide it through, in, slide, in, slide. Not fast, but you can, this is literally a cheat way. And then you want to just slowly pull it, not fast. Because this is what happens. This little loop right here of loose thread, it's stuck that way now. It is very stuck that way. And then what you want to do is you kind of want to rub it a little bit. And then if you see an air bubble, or well, what I call a fabric air bubble, you take a pin out and you just rub it. See if it's removable, and if it is, you repin the area, and then you just rub again to make sure that there's no new air bubble. Well, like I said, fabric air bubbles as I refer to them. I may end up just calling them air bubbles in this video. And like I said, you want to make sure it stays flat on the surface. You don't want to let it hover and then stitch. And again, keep using your thumb. You also want to follow the guideline, let's say, of the fabric. You want to make sure you follow the guideline where you stitch the other fabric pieces. And right now we're doing the center part of the back piece. This is where the back piece conjoins with the other back piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of this part off camera, and then I'll show you what we do when we get to the curved bits. So we're now at the very end, and then first thing I want to do is, if your table's not long enough, get something that's clean and flat and put it up there for weight, so it stays in place. So when you get to the very top, you want to, get to the end, do your loop, and then bring it up. And then basically the same thing, but in a different angle. And again, very relaxed stitching. You don't want to tighten it right now, because if you tighten it, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be an air bubble. So you want to just leave it loose. If it tries to tighten up, you just, do it this way. You just rub it out and just pull it a little. Basically, you're just telling the thread that you don't want it taut. You want it slightly loose, but taut enough to where it's not going to, go anywhere. So just slightly taut, just a light little pull, nothing too heavy. And again, what I'm doing is I'm following my pre-stitching from the conjoined pieces of the cotton fabric and the interfacing. So later on, when I sew these pieces together, there is modesty pieces. There's little bits of the areas that I'm going to stitch together. So there's a little bit of a guideline. And if anything sticks out, like this thread, I can always trim it. Or not trim it, cut it out. Now that we're at the very end and we're almost out of thread, you want to just loop it twice, and then without tightening it, you want to take your scissors wherever those are and you want to snip it. Don't know, oh, there they are. So you just want to snip it. That way it doesn't get too taut. It's taut, it's where it needs to be. But if it needs room to breathe, Right, so now that we're at this angle, so we're almost at the curve. We're almost at the curve. So I'm going to do this off camera, and I'll let you know when we get to the curve. We are finally here at the curve. This is like the curve for the arm part of the armhole in the back. So we've already made our slant. So first thing first is we're going to rub the area, make sure it's flat. Now we're going to make a curve. Again, you want to hold it. And then once again, you want to put it in so you have that double, which serves as a loose knot. Now here it's going to get very, very hard. So you want to make sure you have your thumb where you're stitching at all time. You want it to help double pin. Go ahead and remove that pin so it's not in your way, because your thumb is taking its place. And you just want to slide it an inch off, but keep it close. Remove that pin. All right, babies. Okay. All right. Now let's remove these excess pins. Keep going if you're able to, because we are running out of thread, so it feels like we're at an end. So what you want to do is you want to just loop the last bit you've already done twice, and that will serve as a loose knot, so it's not going to go anywhere. And then get your scissors. And that, ignore the background music of bottles falling. Alright, we're back. So what we want to do is we want to, now that we have a new bit of thread threaded, we want to go back to where we had done our double stitch, and we want to just go over it. That way it's fused with our last stitch. And again, this is just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And again, as always, we keep it loose. We don't pull it too taut. Get to that point. There we go. So this section twice. We'll go over where we just stitched twice, which is what we just did. Now we can do the next curve, and like I said, try to stay in the line of your previous whip stitching. Well, not whip stitching, pin stitching, I should say. And then always, if the pin becomes your enemy, you can always remove it, especially if that pin is no longer needed. We'll go ahead and remove this pin as well. Again, don't let it taut. If it does get taut, just pull at it like this, rub it. And then just remove the pin if you need to. Remove all the pins. And then repin it. Again, this is just to make sure that there's no fabric air bubbles. As you saw, you kind of saw that rippling that was happening. That's what I call another form of fabric air bubbles. All right. Okay. Remove that. Right. Let me grab the next thread bit, get that threaded, and then we'll do the next bit. So I'm going to do that off camera to save up on time. Alright, we have stitched it all together, and as you can see, we just flipped it back over so you can kind of see the outline of where we stitched, because this pink is a shade darker. We do have a matching shade of pink, but we are using, this is literally our pin thread, our stitch thread. This is just to make sure we can see everything before we trim it, because the thread that we are using is very similar in color to this fabric, and that is to hide, if we need, for decorative bits and conjoining the pieces. So it looks like this piece there's no air bubbles at all. So the next thing we need to do is iron this. So we're going to iron this before we cut it. So I'm going to get the iron ready and we'll go to the next step. So the ironing process is going to help us if we have any air bubbles, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a fold right here. So this will help us flatten it all down, and our mission is to try to get as many of the air bubbles out as possible. This is why we have not cut the fabric, because if we cannot, like I said, fold the excess loose fabric from the built-in air to the ends where we're just going to sew it anyway. We have to seam rip it if it's going to be visible. But so far I'm like flattening it out already just by hand, the heat of my own hand. I can tell that what little bit there is, it's not going to be much, and we can definitely train it to roll at the sides. Also, as you know, when I stitched the cotton fabric, I stitched it with interfacing, so this iron part will seal up the glue. Will wake up the glue in the interfacing, and it will seal up the cotton, and then it will stiffen up this fabric and make it nice and stiff. So, and which is what we need. So let me see if the iron is ready. Let me flick my finger. It is. Oh. So do we have it set? No, we do not. Let's put it where we want it, which was wool. which is so funny. I did synthetics, you guys, the other night, and for some reason it liked the wool. It preferred the wool. So, alright, that is ready. Alright, you guys, here we go. Fingers crossed it still loves the fabric, because last night we just ironed a patch. So far everything's good. We ironed a test swatch, and then we ironed the fabric pieces with the wool level, and it worked just fine. And again, we're just, taking the air bit and pushing it to the edge. Then we're bringing it outwards. This first, we're just going to the edges real quick, and we're just trying to roll out the excess towards this section as best as possible, because like I said, when we cut, this is the join pieces, so if we can join the air bubble area in the section that we're going to stitch up, then it won't be visible, and we'll have like this very nice taut fabric. There is a little bit of gathering here, but it's not too much, and it's under the arm, so it's not going to be visible. Oops, no, like I said. And then we want to flatten the area as best as possible. Alright, let's bring that upwards. Now that it feels a little, let's do a little bit more on the top here. We don't want to leave it on there for too long, the iron I mean, because like I said, we don't know if this fabric can take it for too long. It's taking it and it's ironing pretty good, but you never know. We don't want to jinx it. Alright. We're going to let that cool down. I had to double check. I wasn't sure if I was filming. Alright, we're going to let this cool down a bit, and then we will trim it. Right, we are back. This is cooled. It's still slightly lukewarm, but it's cool enough to cut. So our mission is to flip it over, and as you can see, all the air bubbles are in the inside. You can see little wrinkles here and there, but that is fine, because this is the part of the dress you're not going to see. And as I've mentioned in the past, the interiors of my costumes are not the prettiest, and that's because, one, you're never going to see those unless you see me making them. Two, it's just, I find it, it does make the work look clean, but I just find it a waste of time, if you know what I mean. That that you put all that work on the interior bit and no one's not going to see it, unless you do some sort of dramatic get ready video where you lay out the dress and you want to show all the pretty bits. Also, we are trying to salvage, like I said, we're salvaging fabric bits because you never know if we might need these. And what pieces we cannot salvage, like this strip right here, this is immediate garbage. This strip right here, immediate garbage. So we're going to cut this piece off right here. And again, this is a salvage piece. There. So this salvage piece will be kept. We will remove the excess thread from probably the silver trim, I think it is. And then all this is just going to be tossed. And here it is. We actually have a new guideline. So this right here, this is a little fold bit. We just sew it, and then you'll have like this nice clean look. And that's from the bubbling. So the bubbling actually works for the bubbling. If you end up getting bubbling, if you can work it in areas that you're going to join, which is I strongly recommend if you're able to do it. It not only works in your favor, but it sometimes will give a nice clean effect when you stitch the fabric together. I mean, hold on, let me see. So let's say this is a fold, and then you just put it, so you get a really nice clean look. So that fold actually becomes like a camouflage. And then as you know, there is some excess bits, like you can see this little bit right here. This is where most of the skirt's going to go. Because the skirt is actually like this, it's like this little curve bit in the round dress. It has like this little loop thing that goes this way. Because like the lower back. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. That's why we're doing pocket hoops instead of my pannier. Alright, so this piece is literally done. The rest of the items we need is out for delivery as of right now. They should be delivered soon, hopefully. And all we have to do is dismantle the dress piece and dismantle the dress piece, salvage what we need. We're going to try to turn the whole back part, well, not the whole back part. We're going to take the back part and we're going to cut the panels off of it, and those panels are going to be side pieces for the skirt. Either the side pieces for the skirt, the upper skirt I mean, or part of the trying to think petticoat, extension for the petticoat. And then the second petticoat, the petticoat of that gown will become the back piece of the front part of the petticoat, and then from the ruffle bits we're going to salvage from that will be a second tier for the front part of the petticoat, which means we're going to have to remove the silver off of all that as well. Other bits like trims and stuff we will salvage as best as we can, and maybe use. We're not too sure yet, but it is all a process. It is all a process, you guys. So wish me luck. Tonight, like I said, we will probably do the seam ripping and everything tonight. And we may do a second video, which may not be about sewing anything. It will involve the birthday dress, but it might be about the jewelry only, because we're going to be giving the jewelry a makeover. It depends. We may do more sewing, we may just do the jewelry. I don't know. But this is what we have so far of our birthday piece. We have one Nice back piece ready to go. We just need the other part of the dress, well, the second part, the second dress, to tear up and use as salvage, and then we can work from there. So stay tuned for that. I will probably do that all off camera because, like I said, I don't think you guys want to see all that, but we will be doing the assembly of the bodice. Definitely, for sure, the assembly of the bodice when we get all the pieces ready to go for the assembly. So stay tuned for that. That will also be a future video. Please like and subscribe if you have not, and stay tuned for more. See you soon. Bye-bye.